You're listening to the Practical Wealth Show with Curtis May.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Practical Wealth Show. So I am excited. This is going to be a short episode. I just kind of want to reflect on, we were traveling most of last week. I was in Cincinnati for an event put on by one of the insurance companies that we use to implement the infinite banking strategy. It was nice because they really take care of their, it's like a family. They really take care of their people. And it's so much so, I was just telling a young advisor that I was mentoring that, I want to introduce you to the real insurance industry where you can build a career where they take care of you. So, the average financial services person is like 60. So I have a bunch of guys that are kind of learning how to do it. And, so they're between like 24 and 35. And it's like, all right, if you're going to do this, you might as well learn how to do it right. So you don't get out there and mess people up, because I wasn't really even trying to do that, we have a message. I really want to get this practical wealth message out. I want to make sure it gets out there correctly, because it's not going to be me that's going to screw up a great thing, because people out there, charlatans out there doing a half-butted job of explaining the banking strategy, or not serving it properly. So that's a pet peeve of mine. If you're going to do it, you do it right. So anyway, we were, sharing with that and, the ability to build a career out of it. There was a guy that was at this event. This guy was 91 and had written up people like Frank Sinatra. I'm getting them too mixed up. They both have written up famous people, Lucille Ball, and, just sharing stories from the 50s, 60s, 70s of people that, professional athletes and stuff like that. It's fascinating. And still love it. They are still working, not because they have to work, just because they still enjoy it and they can do it, because it's like, you want to, it's funny. I was playing ball in this, I still play basketball at twice a week. And there was an over 45 night I went to. I still play with the young guys. I can still get up and down the court, but there were guys there like 63, 67, still playing full court. And I was like, man, I'm so happy to see y'all, because you mentally just extended my career 15 years. I don't care what my wife says. I go back out there. You're still going out there. You're a glutton for punishment. And the running joke is, if one of us gets hurt or twisted the ankle, it's not the pain we're in. It's we got to hear from our wives when we get home. And we're back. So let's talk about what we want to talk about. And what I wanted to share was, the other thing I wanted to share was the second half of the meeting of last week. I literally got home Wednesday night, and then I drove to Rhode Island from Philly. So I got home, my plane landed at 5. I woke back up at 3. I didn't get on the road until about 5 a.m. I drove up to QLS. So if you've heard the show with Chris Prefontaine, Zach Beach, Nick Prefontaine, my 8-year-old was coming in, so it's just distracting. Let me close my door. So what happened is just being up there for their mastermind. It was awesome. Just, seeing their commitment to excellence, personal development. I actually ran into a couple of my listeners that were there, that were in the mix. So shout out Russell and from California, and shout out a new friend and listener I just talked to today who reached out to me, Josh. A couple of them I want to have in there because these were people that were practicing infinite banking and using real estate, years before they met me. And so I'm going to have them on to share, some of their experience and how they're using it to grow their business. So it's like, all right, this is not Curtis. This is other people talking about this stuff. So I want to show y'all this stuff is not new. It's just new to you. One of the things I said to the group, because they asked me to, stand up and, tell where I was from, and that I'm a great friend of their show and what their message is. I think it's awesome. So if you are looking to learn how to build a business in the real estate space and you want the real deal that works, they're showing me case studies, folks. Their stuff is the truth. So just check out the show notes, get their free book. They have a free webinar explaining it. So it's like I know it's a commercial, but no, I'm just excited about it because I sat up there, and so much so I'm speaking at their event in April. So this is going to be I'm really excited about that. And as we go deeper, and I'm going to show them how to use the banking, the private reserve strategy to even make even more profits out of your real estate business. So it's all about access to capital, liquidity, use, and control. But one of the things I shared with them, in their meeting was an example of what I said. Your number one asset is you, right? And you have to invest in your mindset, your skill set, and your network on purpose. So that being said, I went to a quick book study on a book. I'm only, where am I at? I'm in this is a kind of a meaty book. It's about 500 pages. All right. But this book is awesome. And I could go back and study just the first 3 chapters for like a month, get a lot out of that. So, and the book is called The Joys of Compounding. And the subtitle is The Passionate Pursuit of Lifelong Learning. The book is by Gautam Bayad. It is the most awesome thing. And so what happens is it's really a study of one of the things he starts in the foreword is that he discovered, or the guy who wrote the foreword, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, and Benjamin Graham, who wrote the book, The Intelligent Investor. And so he talks about his first Berkshire Hathaway meeting. And then, he read this book and he started to see the concept. It wasn't a book about investment, but it was a system for living your best possible life. Okay. And so, but if you learn to think properly, and I'm going to give you some examples from the book. I'll probably go back through this and talk about this more, but I just want to kind of, have y'all read this and maybe we can do a study through this together because this book is awesome. But, if you, one of the things he talks about, so I'm going to give you a quote. What is worldly wisdom and how does one acquire it are the questions that you want to ask yourself, because you'll hear Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger talk about worldly wisdom. How does one build a lattice work of mental models? And so mental models they're different situations that happen in your life. And so how you process them, Jim Rohn says, most people don't have a money problem, they have a philosophy problem. And so what happens is, he says that don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Well, how do you get better? How do you, because that's the difference. Jim Rohn says that your income is in direct proportion to the value that you bring to the marketplace. And so the first chapter in the book, the best investment you can make is an investment in yourself, right? And so going back to what do you invest in? Your mindset, your skill set, your network, your mindset, your knowledge, your attitude, your philosophy, your abilities, your knowledge, your ability to solve problems. That's your skill set. Okay. And so Charlie Munger says these are some of the quotes in the book. I constantly see people rise in life who are not the smartest. Sometimes they're not even the most diligent, but they are learning machines. They go to bed every night a little bit wiser than they were when they got up. And boy, does that help, particularly when you have a long run ahead of you. And, he talks about the record at Berkshire Hathaway, and he quotes, without Warren Buffett being a learning machine, a continuous learning machine, our record would be impossible. So they're always learning stuff. And so one of the things I found, because I started reading this, I probably read a book or two a month for the last decade at least. And so what happens is you start to see connections of the dots, the patterns. You see patterns start to emerge because you see them, because now if you've read a lot of stuff, there's nothing new under the sun, okay? And so you'll start to form these mental models. So if this comes up, well, okay, I can deal with it, this, and this. So if you're growing, that's why I tell people, my goal is to get people to read a book a month, because what we need to do is you have to raise your ceiling of complexity, right? So most people don't study money. You're just working to make money. You're trying to get out of debt. You're listening to, financial entertainers, and you're never going to make any money because you don't understand economics. You don't understand how the banking system steals your money. You don't understand how the Fed is stealing your money. You don't, not stealing your money, but how inflation, which is their goal, is destroying the purchasing power. So how do you get yourself on the right side of inflation, right? Why is it that I say that, you're not trying to pay off your mortgage? You're not trying to be debt-free. There's good debt and bad debt. But see, if you're not financially literate, you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. Okay. One of the things he talked about is look at some of my highlights. Most people go through life not really getting any smarter, but you can acquire wisdom if you truly want to obtain it. In fact, there is a simple formula in which is followed will almost certainly make you smarter over time. Simple but not easy. And so one of the things that what Buffett says, now you don't have time to do this, but you can allocate time to it. They literally, him and his partner, Charlie Munger, will sit and read 3 to 4 hours a day, newspapers, books, because what happens is you start to see patterns emerge, opportunities that emerge because you see everything. And all of a sudden, they only invest in very specific things. And if they don't understand it, they don't do it. Right. And so they sit, they read, they think. Okay. Buffett credits many of his successful decisions to his incredible reading habit. He estimates he spends as much as 80% of his day reading and thinking. Okay. And, what happens is I can't even do 80% of my day, but the book has challenged me to up my daily consumption I'm challenging myself to read 50 pages a day. Once asked the key to success, Buffett held up stacks of paper and said, read 500 pages like this every day. That's how knowledge works. It builds up like compound interest, but I guarantee you not many of you will do it. All of us can work to improve our knowledge, but we won't put in the effort. So I'm challenging you to work with me and put in the effort. If you want to be a real estate investor, if you want to be a good manager, a good leader, then you have to read. And I'm not talking about, the newspaper is like popcorn, it's current events, magazines, but you have to read books. They read biographies. There's certain things that have endured, there are lessons learned. See, guys, there's nothing new under the sun. And so if you read history, so I'll have all these little, dare I say it, socials pop up on my social media with these the math doesn't work. And there's nothing new under the sun. So most socialist ideas have been tried over and over again. But see, our mental lifespan is 7 years and we forget everything and we think it's some new idea. So if you study economics and history, they're really the same subject, right? And so if you think of your mind, this is from the book as a library, 3 things should concern you. The information you store in there, its accuracy, and its relevance. Your ability to find and retrieve that information on demand, and your ability to put the information to use when you need it and when you need to apply it, okay? And, the passion pursuit of lifelong learning. The game of life is the game of everlasting learning. Charlie Munger. Jim Rohn says a formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. This chapter, so the first chapter is, understanding that your best investment. So for example, there were people that invested 50 grand at this event last week on a coaching program, right? And this person was already successful, but they felt that there's a person that makes more than him, knows more than him. It was a better investment for him to invest in his next level program, because if you can invest 50,000 in between your ears and you can turn around, this is what he felt. He says, I can turn around, I can probably make that investment will make me $4 million in the next year to 3 years. Okay. Well, okay. I'll take that all day long. See, so one of the things that you think about is what did we talk about? It was like the 40-60 method. And so, I think 10% to savings, 10% to what I call, this is what I taught the kids about. So the 30-70, which is 10% to giving away, 10% to active capital, which is in an enterprise that you can put money into whether if you listen to Carrie's episode, to buy ATM machines, you're doing network marketing, you're investing in your business, that's active capital. Passive capital is savings. That's creating your banking system. That's maybe doing private lending, or maybe you got money going to 401k. You're giving it to somebody else to make money. That's passive capital. But the other thing is to invest about 10% of your earnings into personal development. Because I'll tell you truthfully, my wife didn't want me to go. Oh, you just got back. You can't go to this meeting. And I had this. I was reading this book from No BS Wealth Attraction by Dan Kennedy. Says, I think I'm saying this right. It says you gotta, business is a contact sport, and so if you're going to attract wealth, you got to be in the mix. You got to go somewhere, be somebody, or talk to somebody, and you've got to meet somebody. Like, you have to be in motion. You've got to go where money can hit you, right? And so I said, I want to get into a room with a bunch of brilliant people. I want to see how I can create value for them. So it's not about me, it's how many people can I serve? Can I understand what they're doing? And can I add value to this equation? Okay. And so if you're in business or if you're trying to get a raise as you listen to this, you got to figure out, how can I create more value? You got to give first. Okay. And so before you're looking to receive, and that is the thing. And so how can I be of service? How can I solve problems? See, if you solve problems, you can help enough people get what they want, you can get everything that you want. So if you go with the attitude of service, attitude of gratitude, and I'm going to help people solve their problems, the more people that you help, the bigger your revenue. See, income is a reward for, as Walter Williams would say, you have to please your fellow man. And so when you think of your income, he calls your income, the dollars that you have, your certificates of performance. And so if you don't have any money, you're not doing much to please your fellow man. And so if you say, well, all right, I want to go, I'm going to get the steak, I want to get he says, a bottle of my favorite Bordeaux wine. And then you go up to the butcher and then you say, you check out and they'll say, well, okay, that would be $50. Have you served your fellow man? Yes, I have. Well, show me. And you pull out you have enough money on your debit card, you pull out the cash, because the dollars you have are your certificates of performance. Somebody paid you. So whether you're selling your labor or you're in business or you're in a personal, personal service business, you're solving problems and your revenue is a reflection of the value that you put out there in the marketplace. And so you've got to look at that. So if you are continuously learning, your breadth of information, your ability to solve problems constantly expands. Okay. And so one of the things that he says is that, talking about the news, I think this is all I'm going to talk about today, right? And so when you get the news, every piece of financial news you read should be filtered by asking the question, will I care about this in a year, 5 years, 10 years? The goal of information should be able to help you make better decisions between now and the end of your ultimate goal. See, that's why you can't suffer from short-term scarcity thinking. You've got, what are your big rocks? What are your big goals? And you've got to be constantly looking at the horizon. Now, you got to break it down into, quarterly, monthly, daily chunks, but you've got to have your big goals, because what happens is, your old news, you'll quickly see that life expectancy of your goals is higher than at the vast majority of your headlines. This is Charlie Munger. And so what happened is that, Nicholas Taleb wrote in his book, Fooled by Randomness, minimal exposure to the media should be a guiding principle for someone involved in key decision-making under uncertainty, including all participants in financial markets. His key argument is that what is reported in the media is noise rather than information. But most people do not realize the media is paid, hear me now, to get our attention. And so the problem with information that is diverting and generally useless, not just that, but it's also toxic. And is there anything better than noise in the mass of urgent pounding at us? And it would be like a needle in a haystack. People do not realize the media is paid to get your attention. For journalists, silence rarely surpasses any word. Okay. And so what you have to do is you have to have the ability to sort through that to figure out your truth. But one of the things is you've got to look at stuff that has endured over time. That's why you've got to get your information from books so that you can see the patterns. Folks, human nature has never changed. Okay. So people say, oh, I'm a social media marketer. Social media is a channel, but you still have to get people's attention. You still have to solve their problems, and you still got to appeal to human nature. Okay. And so the channel may change, but the messages and human behavior doesn't change, and people have the same problem. So you've got to, when you're looking at that stuff, you've got to be able to sort through the wheat from the chaff. The theme of this is learn how to learn. Chapter 3 is in becoming a learning machine. They actually break down to you how to read a book, how to put notes in a book. And talk about first principles thinking. As to methods, there are maybe a million and then some, but principles are few. The man who grasps principles can successfully select his own methods, man or woman, and the man who tries methods ignoring principles is sure to have trouble. And so when we talk about prosperity economics, those are built on principles, or the richest man in Babylon. Those are principles. See, so what I don't focus on the product du jour, or whether markets go up and down. If you look at principles, let's take chapter 2 of The Richest Man in Babylon. Part of all you earn is yours to keep. Budget thy expenses. Make thy gold multiply. Make of thy home a profitable investment. Guard thy treasure from loss. Ensure future income and increase your ability to earn. So if you look at that and those goals, that's a 7 cures for a lean purse, or 7 cures for an empty bank account. So if part of all you earn is yours to keep, that means you got to say, well, all right, I've made some money. People say, oh, I gotta make more money. Well, you've got to, if you're making $4,000 a month, if you got to bring it home, let's say, you've got to figure out why you can't save at least $400 of that. So don't talk about making more money. You have to be a good steward of the money you already have. Everybody wants to come to me, oh, I need to make more. One thing I'll say, well, what's the number one issue in your mind right now financially? Oh, I need to make more money. Well, what do you make now? Oh, I make $80,000. All right. Well, how much you save in a month? If I put a gun in here, how much can you save a month? Well, you need to do that first. Okay. And because if you don't, here's a piggyback. I'm going to do a YouTube on this one, but people will come to me and say, well, I got $3,000. I got $5,000. $10,000. What should I do with it? What can I invest in? Nothing. Okay. I mean, if you'd asked me 15 years ago, I'll say, well, you got $2,000, $3,000. What we'll do is we'll put $2,000 and we'll set up an IRA, and you can dollar cost average into that, $166 a month. And it's not going to do anything. Okay. I mean, over time it will, if you live to be like 300, I'm kidding. Not that bad. But, that's a middle class strategy. Okay. But if you only have that money, I would when you go back to the principles of the book, what is your number one asset? You. See, it's your human life value and your ability to solve problems for people that will create revenue, cash flow, because they'll pay you to solve that problem, right? And if you get better at that and you improve your skills, and then you get around people that can benefit from your skills, then if everybody around is making a couple $100,000 a year, you got something that can solve their problem, guess what's going to happen to your income? You're going to be right in the mix. Now you're investing in your business, and now if you can save 20% of now your new $200,000 income, now you got $40,000. Now you can begin to invest in some other things. But I would still say, you need 3 months, 6 months, 12 months of liquidity in your emergency fund and your private reserve account. And then from that, you're educating yourself. And so success is when opportunity meets with preparation. So if you haven't figured out how to make $100,000 or $200,000 a year, what you need to invest in is how to do that. Okay, because that's the problem. You're not making enough money. You need to save what you can if it's below that, but you need to figure out how to solve a problem, how to create a side hustle. If you're in business, how to invest in your marketing and grow your revenue so you can get your money up. As Grant Cardone would say, get your money up, son, and then save that money. Now, Kiyosaki says savers are losers, but I'm talking about the verb saving, so that you're used to keeping some of your money, and then you look for places. This is what lesson 3 of the 7 cures for a lean person: make your goal multiply. So from your savings, you've got to put your money to work. So you've got to employ your capital. So you got to save. What can you do with your savings? You can do for savings. You can consume your savings. You can invest your savings, or you can lend your savings, or any combination thereof. And so as you're educating yourself, you can find different places to begin to employ your capital to generate either more cash flow and or more growth. But they're two different models. You can invest for cash flow, which is what wealthy people do, or you can invest for capital gains, meaning buy stuff, hold it, and hope it goes up. You may be able to do a little bit of that, but you need to invest for cash flow. That is what builds financial independence. Passive income greater than your expenses. That's what you're working for. That's what I want to cover today. And I just want you to get you thinking. So, pick up The Joys of Compounding, read it, send me some emails about that, or find me on LinkedIn, and let's have some dialogues. I really am curious to see what you're getting out of that, and you can begin to apply, the Hathaway. If you're in business, if you're in real estate investing, this book, if you're starting to read, you'll start to see patterns, solutions. If you're doing real estate, the more you do it, the more problems you figure out how to solve, and the more problems you can solve, the more money you make. So you already see this getting together. So if you can accelerate the information you get between your ears, or the network you create, or the mentors that you're around, you can't help but grow your revenue. So if you're stuck, that's because you're not learning enough. You're not learning enough faster. You're not committing part of your day towards investing in between 2 ears. So if you have that kind of money, I would invest in between my 2 ears, and I would find some enterprise I could start so I could begin to get my money up. So listen, I just wanted to give you a quick and dirty episode on shout out to some of our listeners that we met up in Rhode Island. And I'm reading this fantastic book. It's a bunch, because I'm probably reading 3 books at a time. But I think that if you will get this and start, I'm going to find an author. I'm going to get him on the show. But The Joys of Compounding. I'll put the link in the show notes, and read along with me and let me know what you think. All right, folks, have a great week. And I thank you for listening to the Practical Wealth Show, and we're out, and I will talk to you later.
Thanks for listening to Practical Wealth. To access the show notes and resources, go to practicalwealthshow.com. To get your questions on the show, go to practicalwealthshow.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any investment decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Practical Wealth. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.